We tend to think of the global economy as something that lives in the cloud. It feels borderless, frictionless, and entirely digital. Trillions of dollars shift across continents with a keystroke. Supply chains synchronize in milliseconds, and markets process global events the moment they happen. But underneath that digital surface, international trade remains remarkably heavy. To move physical goods from one continent to another, we still rely on thousands of tons of steel, thick bunker fuel, and natural coastlines. Humanity constructed a fragile machine directly on top of the physical geography it never actually escaped. In August 2026, Iran and Oman announced they had reached an understanding regarding the geographic coordinates of a proposed shipping route through the Strait of Hormuz. But a diplomatic agreement on paper does not guarantee security on the water. With unresolved disputes over military inspections, port access, and armed blockades, these massive commercial vessels remain highly exposed and isolated on the water. This satellite map shows exactly what the Strait of Hormuz is. It is a tiny maritime passage that acts as the only connecting door between the Persian Gulf and the open Arabian Sea. This visualization maps out the energy squeezed through that small gap. Nearly 21 million barrels of petroleum and liquids pass through daily. That equals 20% of global consumption and a full quarter of the world's seaborne oil trade. You can draw a new agreed-upon route on a map, but if the actual physical waterway remains too terrifying for shipping companies to confidently navigate, the route is practically useless. Look at the massive energy exporters trapped behind this chokepoint. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Iraq, Qatar, and Bahrain all depend on the Persian Gulf to reach international markets. All of their maritime exit paths funnel directly into this one specific location. A nation does not need the world's largest military or wealthiest economy to wield immense global influence. By simply being positioned right at the edges of a crucial bottleneck, a country commands inherent leverage over nations thousands of miles away. There are land-based alternative pipelines that bypass the strait, but they physically lack the capacity to move the sheer volume of liquid that massive tankers transport over the ocean. If transit through Hormuz is severely restricted, we cannot solve the problem by simply redirecting every shipment through a pipe in the desert. The physical bottleneck we face is entirely absolute. The disruption begins with immediate physical risk. Commercial crews navigating these waters face the sudden threat of floating mines, armed seizures, and incoming drones. The mere fear of an attack prompts insurance companies to immediately spike their war risk premiums. Shipping operators raise their rates, and some crews simply refuse to make the journey, leaving vessels anchored or taking much longer routes. That hesitation instantly bleeds into the financial sector. Global oil markets do not wait for a confirmed shortage to adjust. They trade on future expectations. This chart demonstrates how a single diplomatic threat or a report of a damaged hull causes traders to bid up prices immediately, long before any actual drop in physical supply reaches consumers. Violence does not actually have to occur to cause economic damage. The anticipation of violence acts as an instant tax on global trade. That tax trickles down into daily life. When energy and maritime transportation cost more, it becomes more expensive to produce agricultural fertilizer, manufacture plastics, to fly commercial airlines, and harvest food. A diplomatic standoff half a world away physically manifests at the consumer level, showing up right on the corner at your local gas pump. The United States does not import all of its oil through Hormuz, and not every domestic price hike is Iran's fault. However, energy is traded in a deeply interconnected global pool. If a fifth of the world's supply is threatened, buyers everywhere scramble for what's left. Because of that shared pool, a geopolitical conflict on the other side of the planet will always find a way to directly tax an ordinary household's wallet. The fragility at Hormuz reflects a wider pattern of vulnerability integrated into the modern world. We see the exact same physical constraint at other major maritime passages. Immense volumes of international cargo are forced to squeeze through the narrow confines of the Suez Canal and the locks of the Panama Canal. In Southeast Asia, the Strait of Malacca funnels thousands of massive vessels into incredibly tight, congested lanes day and night. Even our supposedly invisible internet is completely dependent on highly concentrated physical infrastructure, resting entirely exposed on the ocean floor. The systems we rely on feel perfectly decentralized, but they are deeply tethered to a handful of highly concentrated physical pressure points. Globalization was purposefully optimized for speed and cost. We built systems designed to push the maximum amount of resources through the minimum number of routes. That level of concentration strips out costs and creates efficiency when everything is operating correctly. But when one single route is disrupted, the damage instantly multiplies across the entire system. We have constructed a sprawling economic machine, capable of reaching nearly every location on Earth. Yet, for all its reach, the entire system still has to physically squeeze through a few narrow geographic doors. Which leaves us with a difficult question. Is globalization actually making the world more connected, or has it simply made every country vulnerable to the exact same handful of pressure points?